4:45 today. Right on time. Let's see. Live. Everybody's doing all right today. The world is going crazy. So are people. People are going crazy. Let's see if... Oh, there it goes. There goes Rumble. Hope everybody watching is not going crazy. Quite like the people I saw last night. I decided to go on Facebook for the first time in a long time. That was a mistake. That place is bizarre. Let's see. Let's get chat up over here. I hope I hit the post button. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. We'll find out. I guess I probably won't find out. Alright. Here we go. So, where do we start? Today is Thursday, January 8th, 2026. This is episode number 32 of Addressing the Issues. ICE protests took place in a number of U.S. cities that experienced increased ICE presence last night, including Chicago, New York City, and New Orleans, along with Minneapolis, of course. But Minneapolis was able to survive night one of what I will dub the Winter of Love, with seemingly no looting taking place. That was a huge surprise to me. There were demonstrations, obviously. Some strange quotes coming out of those. I even heard somebody said something along the lines of the time being up, the time for protesting being up. These people may be paid. We'll never know. Or we could. It would take a DOJ investigation, but we'll see about that. But schools in Minneapolis have been closed through the remainder of the week. This is going to allow the youth to attend these protests and give the radical educators, people that probably shouldn't be teaching or indoctrinating children anyways, the ability to join these protests. But I think this, will... sorry. I don't think this is about, keeping the children safe, keeping them out of school. I think it does exactly the opposite. It gives them the ability to join these protests, where they have a much higher likelihood of being hurt than they would in, say, English class. But I think that's the whole point of this. They want to bring kids out, people with worse decision-making abilities, and put them into the line of fire here. It's unfortunate that this is something that people would do to children, but it is what it is. That's what's going on today. Will be going on tomorrow. But if you cared about the children, you'd keep the schools open. You'd keep them learning. You'd keep them somewhere that's generally safe, as opposed to a protest. But I think the whole purpose of this is to increase the number of protesters and therefore the likelihood of violence, the likelihood of a altercation taking place. If the purpose was for the safety of the kids, like I said, they'd be in school learning today. They'd be in school learning tomorrow. But now parents are gonna have to take days off from work to ensure that their children are being cared for, ensure that they're safe. Probably will have to monitor their kids, making sure that they aren't taking place in these demonstrations, making sure they aren't getting hurt. So I guess I have few more updates to the story yesterday. That the ICE agent that was hit by the car yesterday was also involved in another incident a few months ago. This was when an illegal immigrant drug him from a car for roughly 300 feet. That would be the length of a football field, making him receive 33 stitches in the aftermath of that event. So maybe when he saw that car coming towards him, he didn't want to see that happen to himself again. As well, the woman involved in yesterday's incident had been following around and impeding ICE officers for reportedly hours before the incident took place. Meaning at any point yesterday, the woman could have chose to go home. She could have chose to go home, watch TV, watch a movie, throw on Netflix. Maybe she could have turned on my stream, could have tuned in any of my old episodes. Some of those are pretty good. Really anything she could have chose to do, but she chose to provoke and attempt to murder an ICE officer. Probably not the best decision making on her part. Today, the FBI shut down the state of Minnesota's investigation into the shooting and has blocked access to evidence. I would say this is a very rare Kash Patel win. Very rare. You can go back through my episodes and see what I think of Kash Patel. I don't think he's doing a stellar job. I think he could be working harder, could be, a little bit better. He always ranted about that private jet being used, and now he's using it more than the last guy, which I find rather funny. But I'm glad they shut down this investigation. The state would have treated the officer like Derek Chauvin, who himself is currently trying to file for a new trial in the state of Minnesota. The protests are expected to continue tonight, as there are groups such as 5501 planning protests nationwide. There's one in my city tonight, but I won't be there. There's more important things going on in my life, like the college football playoff. Ole Miss plays Miami tonight. I'll be tuned into that. There's also hockey on the night, so, I'm booked. Sorry. I won't be protesting, guys. But Pam Bondi was supposed to be going after these groups that pay these protesters. She was also supposed to be going after the groups that make these ICE tracking apps. These apps that track the movement of federal law enforcement. And honestly, I want to know if the woman yesterday, was using one of these apps. Maybe that was the reason why she was there, just using it to impede law enforcement. But this has been a systemic failure from the top to the bottom, from national to local. Every single party involved, from the federal government, which does not enforce its own policies, allowing these agents to be followed around, impeded, harassed on these apps, and the state of Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis' governments, which have supported and condoned this type of behavior, which in turn did lead to the death of this woman. It led her to spending her free time blocking ICE and traffic with her car. It's how it turned out. I've seen videos the day of people jumping on ICE cars, like literally jumping on the front of them on the hood. Probably not smart if you want to remain healthy, but I think it'll be really easy to have another incident quite like the last one. Remind your viewers always, yes. Guys, when police tell you to do something, follow the police's instructions. If something goes wrong, like MSJ says, you can address it with a judge at a later date. If you have a fatal incident, there won't be any addressing it with a judge at a later date. That will be the end of the story for you. That's just the way it goes. Just listen to officers' commands. If that they do something you don't like, live the fight another day, live the fight in the court of law. You'll get a nice payout, real good payout. So, in other ICE-related news, ICE has a surveillance tool which can track and monitor phones of entire neighborhoods. This company called PinLink has sold rights to ICE for two programs called WebLock. I think it's WebLock, not WeBlock, but WebLock and Tangles. These programs can track the locations of mobile phones through software development kits, which are essentially lines of code They allow programs to use location services, and these locations are sent out of the app, likely without you realizing it, to Pinlink, which then can sell it. The alternative method that this uses, or in which this company gets access to your location, is through real-time bidding. This is when advertising firms sell data, including sometimes location data, to the highest bidder that targets certain demographics. In general, this would be like when you're trying to get people to buy something, is the traditional sense of the use for this. In this case, it is to track people, which happens on many popular apps, the selling of your data. So, it might be time to start reading those terms and conditions, guys, because I don't want to be tracked around. That's kind of weird. But with this system, actors other than advertising companies can acquire this data, such as spy firms. With these companies and entities with contracts with ICE, they can collect real-time data on people's locations, where they go during the day, where they stay at night, which is kind of crazy. And these apps, with agencies such as ICE in this case, can track people's locations in real time without any warrant. They don't even have to have a warrant to track your location. They can just buy it, which is absurd. I don't think it's a really good idea for them to be doing this, and it sets a really nasty pretext into the future. We probably don't need anyone tracking real-time locations, no matter whether it's for good or not. I think in any case, it's probably bad, unfortunately. But like in a few years, imagine, someone who really despises the idea of free speech, they get power. Why would they not use companies like Pinlink and the systems like WebBlock and Tangles to track down everyone they don't like? And they can be using claims like, it was justified then. Why would it not be justified now? I'm arguing right now it's not justifiable. But it's not a good idea by any stretch of the imagination to normalize this type of behavior. But hey, welcome to the modern world. We're getting tracked on our phones, whether we like it or not, without warrants. And I just fear for how it could go into the future. I don't think people should be tracked like that, especially if a government wanted to use it for more nefarious purposes, like dissent. I could see this being something used in China or Iran, which we'll get into later. But I can't imagine it as something that a free society would support. That's that. I guess contact your local lawmaker and tell them to stop doing it or something. I don't know. But yes, ICE has a contract in which they can track your locations through selling of data from apps, which is quite absurd. Today, California lost $160 million in federal funding from the Department of Transportation. This was for failing to revoke over 17,000 commercial driver's licenses from illegal immigrants. This is on top of the $40 million the state already lost for failure to enforce English proficiency requirements for truck drivers. I know we have things like Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, but how do these people know where they're going? I'm sure Pine Forest Road doesn't translate perfectly back into French or Urdu. Where do they know where they're going? They're looking at these big green signs, these big giant green road signs, probably the same way we look at Egyptian hieroglyphs from thousands of years ago, and they don't know what's going on. And they're doing it while driving an 18-wheeler, multiple tons at 70 mile an hour down an interstate. So I guess unless Rosetta Stone is selling windshields now, maybe there isn't a problem, but I haven't heard of that yet. Maybe they're all using, what are those, meta glasses with instant translate features so they can read them. I doubt it. But I don't know how they know where they're going. And they're driving fast. They're driving a multi-ton death machine. And it's worked out really bad previously. So I don't know. I think it was good on the Department of Transportation to cut that funding until they do comply, because they're not limited to California. They drive through every state once they have the license. And then now they're on the road with you and your kids, which is horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. In other news today, the United Health Foundation released its rankings of the healthiest states based on social and economic factors, physical environment, clinical care, behaviors, and health outcomes. The healthiest states were New Hampshire topping the list, Massachusetts, then Vermont, Connecticut, and then Utah wrapping up the top 5 healthiest states. The unhealthiest states were Louisiana at the most unhealthy, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and West Virginia. It seems like the social and economic factors did a lot of the lifting here in these rankings. Just going to name poor states and tell them they have bad health. But maybe they're right. I mean, sounds like, New England, really healthy. The South, really unhealthy. But it is what it is. I think the social and economic factors did a lot of lifting in this list, though. It seems that they either didn't like states that vote red, or they've factored into the algorithms. Can you tell me what those criteria do? What these criteria would do, it would be social and economic factors. Obviously, economic factors would be money, regular income, average income. Social factors, I'm not even sure what that means. Probably which way you vote is the way it turns out in my head. Physical environment, I believe, had to do with the surrounding areas. Behaviors, I believe, had to do with whether you were going to doctor's appointments, stuff like that. Clinical care had to do with your access to hospitals. And health outcomes is pretty self-explanatory. It's, when you do go to the hospital, are you more likely to survive or not? How about the people who die less or have chronic disease? I think everybody dies, but less chronic disease, I'm sure that factored into it. I don't think it's, social or economic that chronic disease factored into. I think that would probably factor into either health outcomes or clinical care, whether you can get the care for it. But I thought it was interesting how the South was just ragged on, and then New England was, I guess, perfect. Maybe that's the environmental factors. The weather up there is real nice this time of the year, I've heard. I would never go to New England in winter. It's too cold. So, to the Iran story, a few days ago, President Trump claimed that the U.S. would intervene in Iran if it continued to kill protesters. Well, the protests are only getting larger and deadlier. Before today, or deadlier than before, sorry. Today, internet in Iran was cut off from the rest of the world, as at least 36 total protesters have been reportedly killed. So whatever is happening in the country currently is not known to anyone on the outside. It's like if a curtain was drawn across the stage. We don't know what's going on behind the curtain right now, and the curtain would be, I guess, access the internet. These protests have spread across allegedly hundreds of cities and include the capital of Iran, Tehran. The Iranian regime has still found time to threaten the U.S. during the uprising at home, claiming if the enemy commits an error, likely referring to the U.S., it will face a more decisive response. I'm curious to see what that would be, but I guess if we intervene, we'll find out. But if there would be an intervention, I assume it's going to be soon, if not tonight. The means of communication in and out of the country have been lost, with protests are still growing every single day. And rhetoric challenging President Trump is probably not a great idea either. I think most of us know he's not a dude that's afraid of a challenge. And he definitely doesn't like to be one-upped. So we'll see how it turns out for Iran. And, we may take into consideration the Senate vote on the Venezuela War Powers resolution, and just do it out of spite of the Senate. I mean, they voted 52 to 47 on that. It'll go to the House. Even if it passes the House, it'll almost 100% be vetoed. And I think it'll get buried. I don't think they're going to get 2/3 vote on that. But regarding Iran, the pizza index at the Pentagon, everybody's thing, the pizza index, that is them tracking the orders to local pizzerias at the Pentagon, which I believe originated around the time of the Iraq invasion, if I'm not mistaken, global war on terror, that the pizza places around the Pentagon get an excess of orders when war's about to begin. That's what the pizza index is. It's often wrong, but it's fun to play around with the idea of it. But the Papa John's nearest to the White House, or not the White House, the Pentagon right now, has a 1,250% increase in orders. I can't confirm that all those are going to the Pentagon. Maybe somebody in the area is just having a big birthday party. But obviously, that Papa John's is doing pretty good today. We'll leave it at that. But I don't know when the Iran thing is going to happen, if it will happen. I hope not. It's really unreasonable to get involved in something so far away. But also I do stand with the people of Iran. They should have freedom of speech. For some reason, they want their monarch back, but I guess that was, a better leader than the person they have now, the Shah, I do believe, as they call it. But it's crazy that they're asking for a monarch back in the 21st century. But it is what it is. I guess our last story of the day, a U.S. astronaut is currently experiencing a medical emergency on the space station, but is claimed to be in stable condition. This caused the canceling of a scheduled spacewalk today, intended to install external hardware to the space station. But due to the emergency, NASA is currently discussing the possibility to end Crew 11's mission early. NASA plans to provide further updates on this story in the next 24 hours. Absolutely crazy. I cannot think of a worse place to have a medical emergency than in outer space. I hope they can either treat this person there or get them home soon, get them to land in a hospital, so they can be treated. But that, I thought, was the absolute worst place anybody could ever imagine having a medical emergency. I'm honestly surprised that they don't have, better contingency plans on the space station. As as we all know, we went to the moon in the 60s. Why wouldn't we have an AI doctor on the space station? But yeah, the astronaut, I guess, in question was reported to have a medical conference with a doctor, on a Zoom call or something. And I guess from there they're making a plan on whether or not to bring them all home or not. But I also think, we've been in space for 60 years allegedly. Does anybody think the moon landing's still real? Just looking around in chat. I think it was incredible that President Nixon called the moon from a landline in the Oval Office, but that's just me. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, but some of the evidence is a little iffy. We'll just say that. We'll leave it there today. Lots of stuff going on in the world, lots of crazy things happening. People are crazy, countries are crazy. Just before I started, I saw that all of Ukraine was on a missile watch, I guess. Allegedly, Russia has launched a whole bunch of intercontinental ballistic missiles their way right now. People are protesting in Iran. People are protesting in the U.S. People are protesting in Venezuela. I think the U.S. people are the craziest. I saw this picture last night. I think I might have talked about this while I was on Facebook. It was an AI-generated image of Minneapolis protests. And I thought to myself, if these were so successful, why would you need to generate an artificial intelligence image of these protests to make them look bigger? I thought that was crazy. I think, if you want to get people out to your protest, you should show them the truth on the ground. You shouldn't give us some utopia cosplay from AI. Really absurd. But I was on Facebook. I think it might be the best place to get live, just on the ground footage of what's actually going on. I did that with the last Minnesota riots. Saw a lot of crazy things then as well. The one that sticks out to me in particular, I was watching a stream and a porta-john flipped over, and then two dudes crawled out of it. It was absolutely absurd. I'll be watching some live streams tonight while I watch the college football game, Ole Miss versus Miami. That'll be a good one. I'll probably have hockey on as well. Should be fun. But I am not going to any protests tonight. I guess I could go over there and document the one in my city today, but, I'd rather just be safe. I'd rather be at home. I'd rather watch football, watch hockey, hang out. Might play some video games with some friends. I don't know. We'll see. But I won't be there, and I won't be risking my life to be there. That is for sure. But if you do go, send me pictures. I'd like to see maybe some video. It could get interesting tonight, especially with all these protests planned across the nation. There's an increasingly likely chance that it could go bad. Increasingly likely it could get violent. We could see, like I said yesterday, I was wrong. I'll admit it, I was wrong, but we could see property damage. I think that's more than likely with the increased visibility, the increased rage people are experiencing. But yeah, I want you to stay safe. Thank you. But yeah, stay safe tonight if you do go. That's the number one priority. Don't get hurt. Don't hurt anybody else. That's absurd. And I guess we'll keep track of the Iran situation the best I can without internet coverage from them. But, I think if President Trump does something, we'll definitely hear about it. We'll probably see a nice little Truth Social post, everybody's least favorite social media site. But that's all I have for today. Make sure you guys are sending a like, making sure you guys are chatting. As long as you're not driving, don't chat and drive. That's absurd. That's dangerous. Be safe. It's a key part of this stream. Be safe, guys. Drop a like, subscribe, follow on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube. And if you want to comment when you get home, tell me who's going to win the night. I won't be betting on it because I don't bet, but, I'd like to see who's right, who's wrong, who knows ball. That's all I have for today. Oh, and please share these videos. We got a lot of people in here today comparatively, and I appreciate that. The number one thing is your guys' viewership. That means a lot to me, but liking and commenting also help me along with the algorithm, and sharing. You can share it to somebody, share it with your mom, your sister, your brother, your dad, your grandparents. I'd like to see some grandparent chatters in here. That would be funny to me, at least. But yeah, probably don't share with your kid. We talk about Santa a lot, which is, not good, but it happens. Probably don't share it with anybody that is still, in school. College, go ahead. Elementary school, this probably isn't for them. But yeah, make sure you guys are sharing, liking, following, subscribing. I appreciate everybody coming in here every day. well, I guess Monday through Friday. One last thing, speaking of Friday, we're going to be live Friday. It'll be the first Friday live I do. And then we'll have the guest episode, Searching for Solutions, number 5 on Saturday. I plan on having that out Saturday morning. I've mostly spliced up the video, added the outro, stuff like that. So it should be up Saturday morning. So if you want to watch it while you're, cooking breakfast, scrambling the eggs, making some bacon, cooking biscuits, whatever you're doing, you can throw it on, listen. It's a great one. Talk a lot about health, talk a lot about Christianity, a lot of good stuff in that. So I hope you guys will tune in on Saturday. I'll remind you guys tomorrow while we're live at 4:45 about that one more time. But like I said, I appreciate everybody coming in. To my people on the East Coast, I hope you get home safe. To my people further west, I hope you finish up your workday strong and get home safe as well. If you go out tonight, be careful, be cognizant, don't be silly. Follow law enforcement's orders. It's always good. All right, I'll see you guys again